A very happy new year to you all, and a welcome back or welcome to the New Levels Coaching Podcast. Remember, we are the coaching podcast that brings the endurance world lots of inspiration and education. And to kick off 2025, I am joined by NLC co-founder and my lovely wife, Gemma Moses. In this episode, rather than look back, which is what we do on many of our podcasts, we are going to look forward. We're going to look forward to what is to come in 2025. We're going to look at goals for the new year, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the process and how we work towards those goals. We hope you enjoy this episode. We have got lots of good episodes lined up for you in the new year, but we're going to kick off in our home, recording our first podcast of the new year. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, and enjoy. Okay, Gemma, welcome. This is interesting, isn't it? Welcome to our house.
I feel a little bit far away from you because usually we're in that podcast studio. It's quite small, so it's nice to kick the year off with a different setting.
Yeah, different vibe. So if you're tuning in on YouTube, I know a lot of you listen to this, the audio version of this podcast, but if you are watching the version on YouTube, you'll notice that we are in our home. We thought it would be nice to kick off the new year in the comfort of our own home, but it's also my birthday, so we're not in the office today, and we've actually moved office spaces, and we recorded our last episode in the podcast studio at the end of 2024, so it's quite fitting that we're going to start the new year in style here at our residence of NLC. We are going to be moving spaces. We're going to try and convert a room in our house to a podcast space, which is exciting, so watch this space, but we feel like we've done a good enough job. What does it get your approval? You're the one who approves the aesthetics these days.
It does, because I think you've set it up nicely with my trophies in the background, which is nice. The run through trails races, which is quite cool. But it's Lewis's birthday today, and I did ask you, I was like, oh, what do you want to do on your birthday? Should you have the day off and do something? And Lewis, I didn't even get an answer, and then you just got an invite to record in the podcast. So it shows that you love what you do, because this is what you're choosing to do on your birthday, which is amazing.
Yeah, I do love what I do, and I wanted to, I guess, keep with tradition of getting our podcast out and getting it out on time, but also I wanted to do something that I enjoy doing, and that is not just listening to my own voice. It's not just talking to you, but no, educating the world and kind of looking ahead, and certainly in this episode looking ahead to a very exciting 2025. I also wanted to reflect on what was a brilliant weekend that we just had. We had the Paula Radcliffe Marathon Workshop, which is the first time we've ever done that. It's the first time Paula's ever done anything like that. Paula's been to running camps and she's hosted days, but she's never done a specific marathon workshop, something that she was keen to do and we wanted to bring to life. To see that come to life at the weekend was just fantastic, and I thought we need to reflect on that before we go ahead and talk about everything in 2025. So you had a lot of responsibilities on the day, Gemma. You were responsible for making it look good. Were you happy with how it went? How did it go from your perspective?
Yeah, no, it was an incredible weekend. And I think when we did the last podcast about our reflections of the year, one of my biggest highlights was that we were working with Paula and how amazing she's been to work with. And, you know, we've had a long friendship with her, which has been really nice. And I think that, it kind of topped it all up. To bring it all to life on Sunday was amazing. And there, we did have concerns about the weather. The weather turned, and we had plan A, plan B, plan C, and, trying to make that happen, and it was amazing to see it all come alive. And I think the highlight to me was just seeing Paula absolutely flying around that track. Bearing in mind she's technically retired or coming out of retirement now, but I mean, she still looks like an elite athlete. It's unbelievable. And you just think, wow, I can see how she got to where she got to at her peak. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was coaching the session, blowing a whistle and shouting encouragement, and yeah, it was quite a surreal experience watching Paula with all those people on the track. And I think what stood out for me was Paula has trained a lot on her own in her career in the build up to these big major marathons, but she's chasing her 6 stars now, and she's going to Tokyo and then to Boston. So it was quite nice to see her in with the masses in a track session and running with them, because she's going to be in with the masses when she runs Tokyo and she runs Boston. So it was quite nice to see her in that environment, in like a group training environment, on the track that is named after her for her achievements, and Loughborough recognising that she was a student here and how fantastic her career's been. Yeah, it was just, I guess, a surreal moment. And I kept putting on social media, it was kind of like a pinch me moment, because Paula's been our hero and many people's kind of hero and inspiration in the athletics world since we were young. So to bring that to life and see it come to life and be responsible for that, yeah, it was a really proud moment as a company, and I feel like it was a bit of a milestone, and what a way to kick off the new year as well. So that's where we started the new year. But well, let's backtrack first before we look forward. We decided to race on New Year's Eve this year, the last day of 2024. Something that you've always said you wanted to do. Why was it something that you wanted to do on New Year's Eve, to go and race somewhere?
I think I got to a point where I was fed up of drinking and going out, or like celebrating going into the new year hungover. But I think, yeah, for me, I'd always wanted to do a race later in the evening. So like you run at 11 o'clock, because some of them used to do that. I know the ones abroad where you race at like 11:30 and then actually you see in the new year while you're in the race. But actually, practically, that's probably quite tiring. But yeah, we'd looked at a couple, hadn't we? One in Wales, and then settled on Battersea. And we were a bit worried about travelling down and the trains being cancelled, but it ended up being quite smooth. And yeah, it was amazing to be able to do that on New Year's Eve and do something different that we haven't done before. So
we were going to potentially go down to Nosgallen in Wales, which we've always had on our radar, but because we'd gone up north to see my family, it was a lot of travel to then come all the way back down and head over to Wales for that race. But I'm sure that was a brilliant one as well. The weather wasn't great anywhere in the UK on that day. Yeah. It was windy, it was pretty horrific. But similar to you, I think we've got into a mindset of we want to do the things that we enjoy, and we generally do love running. So why not go and compete and race and have some fun with it? There's races abroad, as you mentioned. I think there's San Silvestre, I think is a 10K over in Spain. I think there's Bolzano in Italy, which went ahead again. So there's lots of races that do happen on New Year as a tradition, but as you said, they're not quite timed with the New Year fireworks and the bells ringing anymore, but they used to be. But I think obviously it's a little bit demanding, and particularly with kids races and stuff as well, it's quite nice to do something in the day and involve a lot of people.
And I always think fair play to the organisers, because actually you've had the Christmas period, and to put on a race on New Year's Eve and, have to coordinate it, get the results out, put it all up is amazing. So I think Podium did a fantastic job, and the atmosphere was brilliant actually. And even though it started earlier in the day, it actually was really good, because then we could go out for dinner and be home, home to then see in the new year. So worked really well for us. Yeah,
massive shout out to Chris and Ben and the team and everybody who chipped in and made it such a special event. It was a great event, and again, it was different. It was quite unique. It was road onto track, back onto road, and you did laps. And yeah, I quite liked it. There was mixed feedback on the course. Personally, I quite liked it, and I thought it made the spectators more involved, and you went past them a lot. But I think it shows their passion for it as well, like you said, to have emails coming through all through that Christmas and New Year period, making sure it's going to go ahead, having to deal with the weather and all those things, and then to put on an incredible event on New Year's Eve is like a nice way to round off the year. But I think it kind of celebrates where they've come as a company and a race organisation in 2024, because they are leading the way when it comes certainly to 5K road races. We're seeing a lot more elite races on the scene now, particularly the Top Flight series will run through, as well as other races as well. I'm not going to list them all, but I feel like Podium have set a little bit of a benchmark there, and it's quite inspiring to see. And their next event, for those people who may want to get involved, well, it's sold out actually, but you may want to come and watch because you raced it last year. It's where you ran your PB, Gemma, is in Leicester in March, isn't it?
Yeah, I kicked off the year racing. My first race was Podium 5K in Leicester, and finished the year Podium 5K at Battersea. So yeah, big Podium fan. But I want you to talk to us about your 5K race on New Year's Eve, because it was something special, really, because it's the first time you've ever raced in carbon shoes.
It was first time. You said before we came on, don't put me on the spot with anything today, and you just threw me straight under the bus on the spot. It was the first time I've raced in carbon shoes, because I stopped racing competitively as they were getting a bit of traction and didn't really know what to expect from it at the time. So yeah, I decided that I wanted to race and put them on, and yeah, I was impressed with them, and I ran pretty quick, not as quick as I've ran in the past, but 14:28 for 5K, which after
pretty quick.
A 5-year absence, I actually worked it out. It's my second fastest road time. Actually, I've only ever ran faster once, but I didn't run a 5K road when I was a 5K road runner. I didn't run a big 5K road race. I ran some as training, park runs and stuff, but not properly. So I do feel like that road time is probably gettable. I think it's 14:14 officially. Maybe I will have a crack at podium in March. Who knows? But the big thing for me is like I really enjoyed it. I came away from it. I've been loving the trails. Don't get me wrong, and that's where I want to stay. And I want to continue to train a lot on the trails and race on the trails. But I think it did make me realise that I really enjoy racing shorter stuff as well. So it's just got me thinking. It's kind of, I'll be honest, it's threw me a little bit. Because as much as I love those races on the trails, I do think they're a little bit long for me. I do think I'm more suited to shorter middle distance, and I say shorter. 5K is not short, but it is these days. So yeah, it's kind of taken me a little bit by surprise, I'm going to be honest, and that's not all to do with the shoes and the time. It's to do with how I felt and the event, and maybe it is because the event is a good one as well. And I was chatting to a friend, John Beattie, who's got his own coaching company as well. John and I are really good friends and similar age, 38, 39. And he was saying, similar to me, he picks those big events because it's what motivates him, and he wants to be around that big positive environment and all those positive vibes. So yeah, food for thought for 2025.
Wow,
I think.
First I've heard.
Yeah.
And I know after the race, like, you put a few coaching reflections out there as well, because you definitely learned. So you are really good tactically. You have a lot of racing. Kind of your racing brain is really, really good. And you put a few posts about like what you learned or what you observed and how you felt. If you want to share some of them, because I think they're really useful for other people to learn from and understand.
Well, the first big one was before the event. So as you know, and pretty much nobody else will, apart from the people who were there that day, I twisted my ankle quite badly 9 days out from the race on the Sunday. So the race was the Tuesday. It was not the Sunday before the race, the Sunday before that. And it was a bad, it was, I'm quite good at bouncing off my ankles, and I twist my ankle quite regularly, but not like that. I actually thought it had cracked when I heard it, but thankfully it was the twig that cracked that I'd kind of slipped on. I slipped on a twig and a rock. But it did swell up quite badly in the first 24 hours, and I think I took 48 to 72 hours completely off, compression, ice, did all the right things, and just said, you know what, I'm just not going to run until it's right. But I did do everything right in that moment. I didn't think about my race 9 days away, and that's something I would encourage for everyone, is don't think about what's to come, think about doing what's right in the moment. And I'm a massive believer in that, and I would say that I have a mindset where I can switch it quite quickly to say, you know what, if I can't race, I can't race. I don't care. I need to be right first. Because ultimately, in my eyes, if you're not right, you're not going to race well anyway. So it's like, I want to stand on that start line full of confidence. So step number one was make sure I was right. Maybe tied in, or, you know, because I was like then having a bit of downtime out of routine or whatever, I then got a little bit ill as well. And I think, unfortunately for you, I still think you had a good run on the day, but I do think you caught my illness and yours was a little bit later. You had it as we were going into the race. So I just ran easy all week when I did get back, and I listened to the body, made sure the ankle was okay, didn't do anything too silly. We did a tempo session on the Friday before. I didn't bury that either. I didn't really go too fast. You were in that session, you could see me, like it wasn't anything spectacular. And I trusted that I would recover, and that on the day I needed to run hard, so I needed to be fresh. So I think before you even get to the race, there's a lot that goes on, which are important decisions, which are going to impact how you race. And I wanted to address that first. With the race itself, I'm conscious I'm talking here, so make sure I've not missed anything so far. Is this what you wanted me to cover?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's really good learnings. Like, I'm slightly different to you when I get niggles or injuries, but you're like the calmest person ever. You're just like, it'll be, what will be. And then I think staying relaxed with it actually helps that recovery process as well, because those stress hormones aren't being released in the body, and you're actually quite relaxed, so you recover quicker, you move forward quicker, you don't panic, and like you say, you focus on the now rather than actually what's going to happen in a week's time. So yeah, a lot of people could learn from that.
Well, it sounds simple, doesn't it? But you can't change it. Like,
No.
it doesn't matter what you do, you can't change what you've done, but you can't just miraculously fix yourself. You've got to do all the things that you've meant to do right to try and help yourself. But if it's not right, it's not right. And there's always going to be another race. And yeah, I actually would have been gutted if I'd not been able to race. But at the same time, I know there's other races. So I knew you were racing still, and that would give me enough satisfaction. And if you weren't racing, then I wouldn't go, and then I'd just say, well, there's another race somewhere. So yeah, I think you've always got to have a bit of perspective as well. And maybe Christmas and New Year was a time that helped me with that, because I was like, well, it's a good chance to see family and friends and just chill out and just relax. I do think as well, though, we kept good structure between Christmas and New Year. That's important. I'm going to say it. I've not drank alcohol for a long time. I'm kind of going off that feeling of drinking. And even though I was with family and friends, and that would have been an easy thing to do, because of the heart condition I've got, AF, I choose not to drink now if I'm going to exercise, and exercise is so important to me that I just decided, you know what, I'm not gonna drink, and maybe that helped too. But on the day, you mentioned about racing. How I see racing is, I guess, as follows. I don't care who's in the race. I look at who's in there, but I don't care who's in there, as in I don't let it affect my performance. But when I go, I'm going to try and outperform people who are maybe fitter than me. And the reason I want to do that is because I believe if you race smart, and you get the best out of yourself on the day, you're always going to be able to turn the tide on a few people who get it wrong. And some people just had off days, and that's including me sometimes. I'm not saying I always get it right. But I am a racer. Like, I turn up on race day, and I feel like that's when you want to perform. Like, that's when you want to be at your best. So I do everything I possibly can to be at my best on that single day. And that's why the taper is so important, and all those things, rest and recovering. And then it only takes one stupid thing on the day to undo all the hard work. So I make sure I stick to my plan and my process. And I guess that's worth considering, because we chat to each other about your plan and your process, but I had to put this in place myself. So I had to have an idea that what I was going to do, which is unusual for me, because I've usually discussed that with a coach. But I'm so comfortable now with that, because I've talked to athletes about it all the time. I just thought, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'm not going to look at the watch. I'm going to run all to feel. I'm going to judge it to feel as I go. I'm going to put myself in a position, and when the time's right, which I knew was 3K in the race, the last 2K, I'm going to really start to move through the field. If I can't, it's probably because everyone's running too fast and I can't do that, or I'm just not able to pick up, and also that's fine. I will always accept that. But that was the plan, and it worked out well. I went from, I think after the first K, I was about 52nd, 53rd, and I moved up to 15th and finished 15th. So yeah, it was a good day.
And I think when we saw you, I was warming up, so I couldn't watch the whole thing, but the first two laps, the first lap you were definitely at the back, maybe 5 from the back. And then the second lap, I think it's pretty similar. So it shows like actually people do go out too hard, and what you can do if you race smart and come through.
Yeah, to give people a perspective of that, because I think it's important, and I want to help people to understand this, because it will look like I've gone off slow. And even some people have said to me, oh, maybe you went off a bit too slow. Well, no, I didn't actually. And I'll give you the stats to prove that. So I ran with a guy who was right behind me at a kilometre. There's a photo of it. And he said he went through the K on his watch in 2:54, 2:55. I can't remember exactly what he said. So I must have been 2:54, 2:55 through 1 kilometre. Now that equates to 14:30 to 14:35. I ran 14:28, and I thought I picked up. The reality is I'm not picking up that much. It's just everybody else is slowing down. But if I was 51st at a kilometre in that race, and I've ran ballpark 14:30, everyone ahead of me is going faster than 14:30 pace. So there's 50 people in that race going faster than 14:30. Yet I finished 15th in 14:28. There's only 16 people in the race finished inside of 14:30, which tells you that the other 34 people, and the ones who are around me, by the way, because they finished even slower than that, and that's no disrespect to them, they just get caught up in what it is, they all slowed down. And I don't think that's the optimal way to run 5K. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but that's my personal opinion. But what's scary is there's some guys who I passed who ran over 10 seconds quicker than me in the first kilometre. They had 10 seconds on me in 1K. So I've made up that time, and I've put another 10 or 15 seconds into them. So I've beat them by 25 seconds in the last 4K. And then if you break that down further, that's 6 seconds a kilometre faster. And you start to look at these stats, and this is why I think I'm a bit of an obsessive coach in some ways, but that for me is like, well, there's the blueprint.
Yeah.
Right. And people can learn from this. But the first thing people said to me was, oh, maybe you went a bit too slow, and maybe you could have closed that gap even more. No, I couldn't have. I know I couldn't have, because I was going fast enough. The next challenge is like trying to go faster at the start and still finishing strong, and that just comes from fitness.
Yeah.
Does that kind of
it's good. Yeah, really good.
So we'll move on to you. So you raced.
Do we really want to move on to me after all the amazing advice that you've given?
No, but
and then you.
I think it's important to say. So Gemma raced the 5K as part of her ultra training. But what are you training towards right now? So what's the next race for you? Not what's your big goal. We'll come on to that in a second. But what are you training towards, which is coming up in January?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the Arc of Attrition 25 miler, which is the in the 50k category for UTMB races. But yeah, that's end of January on the coastal paths of St Ives, Cornwall, and that is my main aim. So when you said about doing 5k on New Year's Eve, I was like, oh God, do I really want to do a 5k? I'm a trail runner now. But then so the main focus of the training, like talking about that run 10 days out, was a 3-hour long run. So that's 10 days out from a 5k. I would never do that normally, but we couldn't, we can't change. We need to train towards the key goal.
Yeah, so you didn't taper too much. You did taper a little bit.
Yeah.
But the aim was that it was going to be a session within the week, and we were going to continue to train. So a bit of a different emphasis for you than me. We also know that you often need a couple of races, particularly over that shorter stuff, when you've been doing longer stuff, to kind of tap into it, open you up. So I thought 16:30-ish was about right. I do think you're in a lot better shape than that if you were to continue to race 5Ks, but that's not the aim. But if you were to go and run another 5K next week, you'd smash that time. I know that because I coach you and I've seen you do it before. So you're in a good place. But yeah, you've got the Arc 25 miler to come, which is, categorized as a 50k race, and we can't just alter training too much, so it takes away from that. But we did do a bit of faster work because that was part of the training plan as well, wasn't it? Yeah,
and I think it's important to kind of emphasize. We went to some faster, so we did 2 or 3 road sessions, and maybe 4, because first one it felt awful doing K reps. I did 8 by K and I was like, oh my God, I mean the wind was horrendous, but then I started to find my rhythm, and I think that was probably part of not the issue, but how I race was slightly different to how you race. And actually I'm quite a smart racer usually, and I lost my head a little bit. I think I got excited about what times I was running in training, because I've never ran those times over K reps before, and started to be like, gosh, what could I run? Like, I can smash my PB here, and that doesn't work for me. Like, some people, they can in their mind they can do that, but I need to just think about the process, not about that outcome. And I just started to get a bit caught up with what time I could run. And then from a race point of view, definitely it looked like a good performance in terms of position and time. But actually I didn't race smart. I didn't listen. I did listen to your instructions, but didn't follow the instructions as well as I usually do. And it's a great learning, because when we had the conversation, I was like, I'm glad this has happened now rather than in my key goal race, like rather than the Arc. So that's a good learning as well to have. It's okay to fail and, not do things as well as you want to, but then kind of take those learnings forward.
We don't say failures, we say learnings. So it's only a failure if you keep doing it, but I know you'll learn from it. As you say, it's better to do it now than at the Arc in January. And let's move on. So let's look at what's to come. So before we go on to the year of NLC, and we'll touch on a little bit of runner retreats as well, just because we'll be spending a lot of time in the mountains. For you, what does this year look like? So do you want to say to people what your A goal is, and maybe what your B goals, and if you've got potentially in your mind an A goal for the spring and an A goal for the autumn, which is what a lot of people do, because a lot of people will be starting to think about that now in terms of their year as well. Yeah, so I guess my goal is I'm going into what would we call the second season of trail running. So still pretty new, but moving in with some confidence taken from this year, which is really good. So what I've decided to do is test out the distances in trail running, mountain running. So I want to see what 100k feels like, what
what I enjoy out of it, and then be able to make a decision of whether I go longer or I stick at more of the 50k shorter type stuff. So I'm going to take the step up at the UTMB in the summer. So my big A goal for the year is the CCC, which is the 100k. So that's 100k with over 6,000 meters of elevation. So I absolutely love the OCC, which was 58k with over 3,500 meters of elevation. I just love being out there. I mean, it was tough, but yeah, it was everything I want from my running. And so we're going to test it over the longer distances this year. So everything this year I will be leading up to that will be in preparation. So I've got the ARC coming up. I'm going to go to Chianti and step up to 70k, which is more of a runnable trail course, but would be a 70k distance. So starting to, step up slightly. And then I'm going to test out some more technical stuff, hopefully in Snowdonia in the spring, and then really, hopefully head over to Chamonix and the Alps for the summer to get prepared for what I need to do for the CCC, which is end of August. So still lots of learning, still big process goals around downhill running, the technical uphills, getting stronger climbing, all of that type of stuff. But I think what I just need to do at the minute is that focus on each day and keep building those building blocks towards it.
I'm glad you mentioned the process goals, because I put a post out about that on socials this week around, it's all right setting goals, but you've got to have the process behind it. You've got to have the action plan. It doesn't have to be mapped out exactly, but you've got to have an idea of where you're going and what you want to improve and, what you want to work on. And we spoke a lot about that at the marathon workshop this weekend. So I'm glad you're not losing that, because I think it's all right having these goals, but you've always got to bring it back to the short-term processes. Is like, what do I need to work on right now, and just keep doing those basics. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me and my biggest message to people is always just keep stacking the basic stuff. Like it's not overcomplicated. I went to the gym this morning and I was like, been doing this gym program now for, I don't know, the best part of 6 months. And still the same exercises, but I'm progressing and I'm doing overload by increasing the weights, reducing the reps, those sort of things. But I'm not bored of it, and I just think it's getting me strong. It's working. Why would I change it? I might mix it up eventually, but I think if you just keep doing the basics and you do them well, that's when you start getting success. But you've got to know what the basics are for you. Everyone's are slightly different.
Yeah, and I think that's why process goals are really important, because I think when you set an A goal, like I do try and park it quite quickly. Like I get excited about the summer. I'm like, because I know how good it was last year, but I'm trying to park it in my mind, because you can start to change the way you do things just because you've got this goal that's quite big, quite challenging, quite overwhelming, and you can get carried away. You should think you're doing more, and actually the consistency is key. So if you do those basics, look after the body and keep ticking training off, rather than trying to do these, massive weeks, or just, adding something to your training you've never done before and doing too much of it. Like, do the basics right, and that consistency will help you get there. But if you're constantly thinking about that goal, it's not really healthy for the mind either. So I say think about it like 5% of the time, and then everything else should be process goals towards it, which will help you when it comes to that A goal.
Yeah, I think to stay on that point, it's very valid. I think as you go through the year, it's easy to look like too far ahead, and you can think you want it to come round so quick, don't you? I keep thinking about Chamonix and UTMB, and I loved it. It's such a unique experience and it was amazing, but I also then remind myself I don't want to wish time away either, because there's so much between then and now, and I don't want to wish my life away. I want to make the most of every single day that we've got. And I think to myself, sometimes we can be itching to get where we want to be. And that's what I guess helped me with the injury as well. Back to what you spoke about earlier, is sometimes you're looking ahead and you're thinking, I really want to be fit for that race, and it's 4 weeks away. And people are always saying, the countdown's on. Well, don't just look at it and start counting down. Think about, how can I make the most of this day? What can I do on this day to make the most of it? Because your days go fast. Look how quickly last year went. It was mad.
Yeah.
And I just think if you can make the most of each day, you get more out of it. And also then it helps you focus on the present. It doesn't mean you can't get excited about what's to come. I think that's also important. It keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
But having those long-term goals, but focusing on the short-term processes, That's the key.
And I think with that goal setting as well, like I made a decision a few years ago that I was like, so we come from a track and road running background, mainly started off as a track club system. And like, I made a decision, like my heart doesn't want to do track anymore. And it would have been easy to just keep doing the same thing, or like running marathons because everybody else is running marathons. And I think when you're goal setting, you really need to figure out what excites you, what you think will motivate you. Even if it's scary, that's okay. But like, what does your heart really want to do? Because I think at the minute, especially with social media in the running world, it's really easy to just do what everybody else is doing. And actually, once you find that kind of why behind what you're doing, that's when you'll buy into it. And the most important thing is you're going to get enjoyment out of the process, because the outcome goal, you might not make race day, you might have an amazing race, you might have a bad race. But if you've committed to the process and can enjoy most of it, like there are some runs that you like, bloody hell, I've got to go out again and I'm tired, it's cold, whatever. But if you can enjoy that process, learn lots about yourself, get new skills, or, do it with people, then the process is where that most of that enjoyment will come, because that's where we spend the most time.
Yeah, and that is the Paula said, didn't she? It's like the party time, the marathon.
Yeah.
And the weekend. Like that's the day where it all comes together. But there's a lot before it that you can enjoy, and it's not always easy. Like especially when we get weather like we've had recently. But make the most of the days where you are enjoying it, and when it is tough, remind yourself that that's what's going to help you as well mentally. When you get out the doors, nothing like not feeling like going out and coming back and feeling like you beat the world a little bit because you got out and you did what was on the plan or what you intended to do. So looking ahead then for NLC in 2025, I'm genuinely so excited about this year. I feel like we've started the year with a huge positive at the weekend. We ended it with a bit of a strategy meeting, that was led by ourselves and looking ahead. But what's on the menu, and what are you looking forward to the most in 2025 from New Levels coaching perspective?
Yeah. I think, as you said, we've got real good team vibes. Our community is amazing. It's growing, and we've got lots to look forward to. I think off the back of the marathon workshop with Paula on Sunday, hopefully we're going to have another one in the diary. So that'll be amazing to be able to bring more runners into that community and learn from Paula and our coaches and help people towards their marathons. So Paula's always my biggest highlight of the year. But I think as well, like, oh gosh, there's so much. It's hard to actually just say one, but
you can say one.
I can just say one, or do you want me to go through them all?
No, you can say one.
Yeah.
You can say one. Yeah, I think that there is going to be another date coming for that workshop. We've had a lot of interest. So if you have expressed interest, please hang fire. Paula is a very busy woman, and we're going to try and get a date tied down. But it's really important for us as well to find the right date that's going to suit people. This was timed really well because it was 16 weeks out from London and Manchester and Stratford, and also fell in the build-up for people doing Boston and those marathons. So we need to look at timing that right maybe for the autumn marathons, but then it's really tricky because the summer holidays come round and a lot of people are busy. So we will get there with it. But there's loads to look forward to in the meantime, including, because I want people who listen to this podcast, we class you as part of our community, our wider community. And it might be the first touch point that you have with New Levels Coaching is listening to this podcast. And you might think, well, how can I get involved? I want to find out a little bit more. I want to do some of these things you talk about. There's lots and lots of opportunities. And some of those opportunities are free. Some of them are paid opportunities, but there are opportunities to engage with our coaching team here at New Levels. So firstly, we've got a physiology workshop coming up, which is not this weekend, next weekend. That's over in Birmingham. You're going to get an idea of how much we've got going on here. We've then got the week after at the National Running Show. Our team will be there. The Runner Retreats team will be there. So Kirsty and the team will be showing everyone what we've got coming up from the retreat side of things. We've then got a track night to finish off January. Matt Long, myself, Kirsty will be down there as well. So again, hosting that free of charge for people. And we've also just launched a rejuvenated run club. We've always had our New Levels run club, but Jethro and the team here at New Levels have done a fantastic job at really bringing that to life. And I guess offering something a little bit different with monthly prize draws and a little bit more of an incentive to be part of that community.
Yeah, and that's an England Athletics affiliated run club. So you can be first or second claim for us and you'll get, that prize draw is amazing. So we're giving away things like workshops at our first ever London Marathon place, which is really cool. So that's going to be the prize draw for this week. And then a monthly newsletter, which has got so much good stuff in there that will really be helpful for your running.
So we've got all that coming up in January, as well as the launch of the Run Club. That's not even into February. In February, we've got another marathon workshop, which we're putting on with children with cancer, which is exclusive for them as a charity. I can't wait for that. We did a little bit with children with cancer last year, and they've got the biggest team in London Marathon. I think they did last year, they do this year. So really looking forward to meeting all the children with cancer runners again, who are going to raise lots of awareness and money for a brilliant cause come London Marathon Day. So to help them on their journey is also fantastic. We've then got running technique workshops coming up, as well as the other track nights that are going to fall in with that. We'll be soon into kind of the springtime as well, where we've got, as well as physiology workshops, we've got trail camps from the retreat side. We've also got the Morzine retreat in the summer. We've got the performance camp in the summer. We kind of finished the year with our trail camps, one in Morzine. It's the back end after UTMB. We've got the Lake District. We have got so much going on in 2025, and we also are bringing more to the table as well. There'll be more workshops, as we've already mentioned.
So I guess if you want to be kept regularly up to date with that, join our mailing list. You can go on our website and join our mailing list, and then you'll get emails about what's going on and the opportunities for you to get involved as well.
Yeah, and we are growing, as Gemma said. The community is growing bigger and bigger. That's our aim, is to reach as many people as we possibly can, to help more and more people. And the ways we do that are, as we've mentioned, they're all the kind of the physical things we do, where we're in person, we're seeing people, and this is a virtual way of keeping in touch with people. We also have training plans now, so if you're looking for a little bit of structure and support, you can go on our website, you can find our training plans, which have been designed by our team. We've all sat down, created a training plan engine, and you wouldn't believe how many hours have gone into this, but it is a really good tool to help people get that structure and support if they are targeting a specific race aim, if that's to finish a specific distance or to look to do a specific time for a race. There's training plans on there that will suit you, so go and have a look at those. We still offer one-to-one coaching, of course, our coaching team, and then all the in-person stuff as well. How do we do all that? We have an incredible team, but the most exciting thing is we're adding to it. So you'll see some new faces coming on board, new levels coaching, retreats this year. Our community of volunteers and ambassadors is growing, but our coaching team and our full-time staff are going to be growing as well. And we're based at the Loughborough office. And if you are local and you're ever in the offices near Bonbon and Canal House, come and say hi, because we'd love to see you. But it just seems like it's bubbling. There's lots going on. It's exciting, but we can't keep up, so we're having to bring more people in. But it's sometimes quite nice to look back and say, well, that was 2024. We're now in 2025. Let's go after it.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how, the business and New Levels Coaching has progressed since we first started it in 2018. And I just think it's amazing to see all the work that's going on and how you can still grow, but still have that massive passion for what we do. And amazing. Yeah,
and I think to summarize it, I got up this morning and it's my birthday, and obviously opened cards and presents, and it was really nice. And then I see messages coming through in our WhatsApp community from our athletes saying, happy birthday, Lewis. And it's just so nice to have that community and to look and be getting birthday messages from people who we've helped on their journey. And I don't coach all those people, by the way. They're just part of our community, whether that's the Run Club or they are in our one-to-one coaching. But I just feel like I'm not even coaching those people, but for them to take the time to message and say happy birthday, it's just a really nice feeling, and it shows the kind of positive vibes we have here at New Levels. So I'm very, very excited for what's to come in the new year. So if you've never been involved, then come and get involved, whether that's free or just continue to listen to the pod. As I say, we've got loads of good content coming your way, or just follow us on social media, or if you want to be on that mailing list, then head over to the New Levels Coaching website and stick yourself on there. Anything I missed? Hope not.
Hope not. No, I need a strong cup of tea to start the year, don't I? I feel like we've already started the year with an absolute bang. There was no easing into this year, was there? So I think by the first week, I'm like, oh my gosh, give me a weekend off.
I feel like it's set the stall, it's set the bar, and now we've got to keep that bar high.
Everyone else is easing in. We're like full pelt ahead first weekend, but I love it. It's great. Yeah,
because
so good.
Yeah, why not start the year in that place, especially with lots coming up. So I know a lot of you are going to be training for marathons. A lot of people are going to have some big goals in the spring and beyond. Of course, it's not just all about the marathons, but there's lots and lots to look forward to. So we will be checking in and seeing how people are getting on, and why not leave us some comments with what your goals are as well. You know, we love engaging with everyone on social media. Let us know what you're targeting. Are you going to be at some of these races that we're going to be at this year? We'd love to say hi, and forever grateful for people who come over and say, oh, I've been listening to the podcast, and introduce yourselves. So please do. And hopefully, if this is your first episode and you've been introduced to the New Levels Coaching podcast, then we've hooked you in, and you will stick with us through the remainder of the new year. That's it from me. Anything to add there, Gemma?
I think that's it from me too.
Yeah, that's it from you. Okay, well, we're going to go and grab some lunch for my birthday, a bit of birthday lunch, and then it will be back to training tomorrow morning. We've been training this morning as well. But as always, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy your training. Good luck if you are racing. Hopefully the weather turns positive for you, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.